All right, welcome back, kings and queens. It seems like today is a done Diddy day. It is a Monday, but we are talking all things Diddy. And I'm not gonna lie. Listen, the latest on Diddy has completely taken me by surprise and blew my damn mind. Terrence Howard sat down with the podcaster. And y'all, he claimed that Diddy tried to have sex with him in what was supposed to be a private and professional meeting. Now, he gave us a glimpse into what he said was the dark side of Hollywood. And he gave a very, very detailed description of what that looks like when he outlined Diddy tried to bend him over. Diddy tried to violate him as a man, as a man. And at this point, I don't believe that Terrence was referring to homosexuality. I think he's referring to predators in Hollywood that are obsessed with control, dominance, power, and the ability to hurt people, to take things from you that you're not necessarily willing to give. But he also talked about the other side of it. There are men. A lot of times when we think about Hollywood, we think about the casting couch, which primarily focuses on women who would give up their bodies for the promise of fame, fortune, money, all of that. But to me, oh my gosh, he's the first one to really go into detail about what men are willing to do, how men are willing to give themselves up in exchange for fame, fortune. And these aren't men that are homosexual or gay. These are men that are just saying, if this is what I got to do to make it to the top, this is what I have to do. In my personal opinion, I do believe Terrence did a really good job of laying this out, walking us through what it looks like and the impact, also the impact of what that looks like when men can no longer face themselves because they did something in exchange for their souls. They sold their souls for a dream. And he goes on to explain that's why you see a lot of them on drugs and alcohol. I jokingly say, I don't trust no man that has all men in his pictures and videos on social media. And that's what immediately came to my head. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I really want to walk through this thing together. Have you heard about this? Is this new to your ears? Are you shocked? Let's get into it. For those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience.
Subscribe now.
Okay, so recently, and I'm taking this from Yahoo News. Let me make sure I give credit where credit is due. Recently, the film and TV actor Terrance Howard, he was a guest on Patrick Bet David's. It's called PBD podcast, where he claimed he was targeted by Diddy for sex under the guise of coaching. That's a bait and switch. If it were a child, we would say luring. Diddy lured him to a location under the guise of coaching. He was going to coach you all right, but let's continue. Terrence didn't say exactly when it happened, when this attempt happened. He didn't give a specific date, but he claims he was invited to Diddy's place when the music mogul asked Terrence for acting lessons. Terrence claims Diddy had no material to work on, even though he was asking for acting lessons to be coached on acting. I guess Terrence must have been like, well, okay, what film have you been casted for, recruited for? Diddy couldn't answer that. And he probably, I believe he asked him a few more questions. He said Diddy just stared at him. He just stared at him, y'all, like a viper, a serpent, whoo, an animal that's ready to attack. He said Diddy stared at him, that penetrating stare, and he stared at him for a while before asking Terrence to play some music. Again, just to stare at him. Nothing was accomplished. I don't know about you, but that just painted a visual that will make anybody uncomfortable, right? You walk in, you think you're here to work, about to do some work, and this motherfucker staring. Oh, no, ma'am. So when Diddy invited him to come back over another time, Terrence said he realized Diddy only wanted to have sex with him. To be clear, he didn't accuse Diddy of any wrongdoing, and I can appreciate that. I can appreciate how he laid it all out. How he laid it out. He didn't accuse him of any wrongdoing, of taking advantage of him, of or committing a crime or asking for any compensation. He laid out his experience. He walked us through it from beginning to end, and also gave very intricate details. I appreciate him manning up because you know why? I believe he handled it like a man would and like a man should. Now, Terrence said a lot of people give up their man card to make it in Hollywood and become successful, but he refused to do so at any point. Needless to say, Patrick, the interviewer, y'all, was taken aback by the story since he didn't even mention Diddy, but he did ask about the darkest side of the business. They reached out to Diddy's reps for comments. Listen, he ain't gonna respond to that. He has bigger fish to fry. Honey, Cassie is about to testify against him. He ain't got time to defend against this. Terrence, kudos to you. Let's get into the video, and I am going to pause it along the way just to share my thoughts in real time. Feel free to share yours too in the chat. All right, y'all, here we go.
Give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some over greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
Whoa, you better preach. That's why I said this is a beautiful message. Your greater desire should be yourself. In the words of Shakespeare, to thine own self be true. He said, I've yet to see a man recover from it. We're not talking about being gay. We're not talking about homosexuality. We're talking about men that are willing to sell them souls to give you all of what they have. And that includes everything just to be famous. And he's yet to see any of them recover from it. Because at the end of the day, I think what he's saying is you ultimately cheat yourself out of being a man when you go that low for fame, fortune, prestige, quote unquote success.
So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from.
Or any parameters too. The guardrails have now been removed. You don't, I think when he's saying they become fluid, slowly and slowly, maybe your discernment is chipped away. You let your guard down. You come to accept this is the way it is. This is what I have to do. This is what we do. And you normalize abnormality, right? When that's not your preference, that's not really what you want to do. You're just willing to do it in exchange for success. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Because wow, I can only imagine what's going on through those men's heads as they go back, right? And you look at yesterday and where you are today. And I don't literally mean yesterday or today. I'm talking about the ones who fall from grace or have to stay in a constant state of uh, inebriation just to get through the day.
So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, one of the things you're seeing, you went to a whole different place.
Sorry.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card.
Damn, this is deep. This is deep and not in an uncomfortable way. Right? The first thing is my heart. I empathize with the men who thought that there was something more important than them and their true assignment of being placed here on this earth to be a man, right? And then he goes on to say, they struggle every day. It doesn't matter the parameters under which you did it. The fact is you did it. You weren't being true to yourself. They can't shake it. Look at Justin Bieber, y'all. I'm not going to count Justin Bieber as a man that participated in something consensual. I'm going to count Justin Bieber as a child that was taken advantage of by the darkness, the evil, the ugliness of P. Diddy and whomever else delivered that kid to the jaws of P. Diddy.
You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So
What he's saying is your foundation. There's cracks in it. You can't even celebrate it for fear of somebody putting you on blast, for fear of that video or that thing that you did under the circumstances of which you did it, making it to the airwaves, making it or being leaked. When we think about what's the girl's name? She's a baby's mama to Rick Ross, and she was on Wags to Riches. Her name is Stoney. She did all that with a man. She let him click that button only for him to become mad with her a year or two later, and he sold her off to the highest bidder, which was 50 cents, right? 50 cents released it to the public. She's still dealing with that shame. There should be nothing that he's saying that is bigger than you that would cause you to go so low in exchange for what? Exchange for what? 15 pieces of silver?
So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process, I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal. And what we were brought in here as men. We produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason, because the aggression is necessary.
Oh, who are you, Terrance? I'm loving this conversation. Let's continue.
You don't trade that in, no matter what.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Here we go. I like the accountability. Hell yeah. I got invited. But I like where he's going. Once you know that it ain't what you thought it was, it ain't what they said it was, you get the hell out of Dodge. Ain't no excuse to stay. We make a lot of excuses nowadays in this generation. Well, she stayed because of this. He stayed because of that. He stayed because he wanted to, because of the lifestyle. She stayed because of the access to the lifestyle. She stayed because her ego was flattered. Let's continue.
You said no.
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me.
Damn. He's asking him questions and he's just staring at him. Would you have crumbled under that type of pressure? Would you have given in? I know people say, we always say what we're going to do until we get into the position where we have to make a decision. Would you have crumbled? Would your son have crumbled? Would your husband have crumbled? Would your nephew have crumbled? Type it in the chat.
Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh.
Shout out to the real ones in your motherfucking circle that can put you on the game and say, hey, listen, I don't think this one looking out for you. Shout out to his assistant. Shout out to the real ones that's going to put you on and say, listen, you probably can't see it, but here's what I'm picking up. He's trying to fuck you. Shout out to the ones that's not scared to speak up when they see somebody coming from a different angle and they see somebody coming for you. And they're not going to let that shit go down like that. I appreciate, he got some real ones. Let's continue.
Okay, now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. You know, when you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room.
That's deep. He's saying, as a man, why would you allow, if that's not what you're into, why would you allow a man to gaze you down and stare you down as if you're a woman, as if you're something to be taken and devoured, if you're not into that? There's no excuse once you know that's the vibe that they're giving off, or that's the type of party, that's what kind of party is. There's no excuse for you to continue.
And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing, and have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that shit because the man card means everything. But when you give up your manhood,
damn, I think he blew the interviewer. He blew his mind. I don't think the interviewer was expecting this type of transparency. I don't think he expected to get this level of content, this level of truth, this level of honesty. That's why I love us, the real ones, as Black people, when we can show up and say, hold up now, because I can't sit up there and lie. You ask me the right question, you may get a novel in this mofo. And Terrence shared his truth. It didn't feel ugly. It didn't feel messy. He said what the hell he said, and he blew that interviewer away, in my opinion. If you that interviewer had the body language was like, oh my God, look, but you let it play out. Excellent job. Excellent interview. Let's take it to the chat. What are your thoughts?